to have you on here. Hi, Wonder. Hi, Martin. Hi, Anna.
Oh, you guys can't hear us yet. Now you can hear us, hopefully. Let us know if you can hear us. Put it in the chat. We were just talking about Pastor's sermon and just how incredible it was for him to be back in the pulpit, but for it to be like back to back.
Yeah.
Such good sermons.
He did such a great job each week. And so many people have said the sermon's just for them, which is always super encouraging to hear people just really taking it and applying it to their life.
Yes.
All right, we hear you now. Great.
Perfect.
Great. We have a little icebreaker for everybody.
Yeah. So Pastor was talking about learning things slow and God teaching us things in a pace probably we would rather to be a little bit quicker. But one thing that he was saying was how he learned how to do that little stepping combo. I don't know if you've watched the sermon yet, but if you haven't, fast forward to like towards the end, he does a whole step combo. So go watch it. But he was saying that it took him so long to learn that, but now it's something that sticks with him. He knows what's going on. He does it. He was able to do it just like that. So what is something that you had to learn slow, or even just let us know if you're a slow learner or a fast learner?
I feel like I'm a bit of a slow learner, especially if it's something, I don't know, a little bit more difficult or not in my, I don't know, natural abilities.
Yeah.
We were laughing, something that my husband will attest to it too. Me learning to drive a car and like parallel park or reverse park.
Yes.
I had to learn it slow. I remember when I was going through driving school, but even like I need someone to walk me through how to do it very slowly.
Yes. I would say some things I'm a fast learner, especially if it's like a sport. I could pick it up pretty quickly, or I would say mostly just sports I can pick up pretty quickly. But something that I had to learn really slow and I still have a hard time with it is on Thursday nights after Sia is done, we try to turn off a lot of the production equipment.
Right.
And so Matt White, our production director, was walking me through how to turn everything off. And it seems simple, but it actually was more complex than you would think. And so I got him to show me slow, and then we filmed a video of him doing it.
I love that.
And I watched the video back.
Yeah.
Yes, a backup. I watched the video back every time we're about to close up because I'm like, I don't want to miss a button. I don't want to do things in the wrong order. But I feel like I am a slow learner, but it depends. And I think too, it probably depends on like if you want to learn something, you're going to learn it fast.
Right.
Versus
and like the time that you put into it.
Yes.
I feel like you'd be a fast learner at dance though, because you used to be a dancer.
Yes.
So I feel like you'd pick up all the steps, no problem, and I'd be very slow at that. So
anything I would say like, activity wise, I could learn pretty fast.
Okay. Well, let's dive into the message a little bit. We have a little clip for you. Put in the chat what your highlight was from the sermon, and then we'll come back and talk about it. But check this out.
You thought by now it'd be easy. You thought by now they would have apologized. You thought by now they would be productive. You thought by now it would have turned around. You thought by now it would have lifted. I think it's amazing that we wrote a song together about God in his infinite faithfulness from a relationship where I actually felt I had been rejected. And I wonder, is there an area in your life where you have called it rejection, but now God has been using it to get you ready? Yeah? Because you thought, well, there's something wrong with me. That's why. That's not why. He's teaching you something. He's teaching you how to fill the jar by faith. Say it. Fill the jar by faith. You fill it 2 gallons at a time. And every 2 gallons you carry and you fill it and it's still water. That's how you learn who God is. Gallon by gallon by gallon by gallon. I feel like preaching God by the gallon, but I don't know who it's for, because it's not gonna come all at once. But when it happens, you'll be saying, oh, he saved the best till now. Give him praise.
That clip was so powerful.
Yes.
And
Great
when
clip.
Pastor was talking about gallon by gallon, that is how you that's your faith. That's how you walk it out. That's how you even learn about God, the character of God, and how he shows up for you in your own life. I think it's so, for me at least, one thing that Pastor said was, he was saying, when I'm almost done trying, it's in that moment in time that God usually steps in. When you're at the end of your rope, when you have run out of all human resources, that's when God really loves to step in to prove to you that it's only him.
Right.
It has nothing to do with anything that you could have done in your own strength or abilities. And Pastor, right before that, was talking about the song that he wanted to write.
Right.
And work with this songwriter, and how he felt like it was rejection after rejection after rejection. And really, he just wasn't ready yet.
Yeah.
Or he was able to even dig deeper and see what he could do in his, like, him and God were able to work things out and write songs, so that he would know that moving forward, he didn't need a great other songwriter, that God had equipped him to do the songwriting himself. And one thing, when Pastor was talking about the song, if you haven't heard it, the song is Do It Again.
It's so good. One of my favorites.
So good. I really was hoping that we were going to sing it yesterday.
Me too.
It was so good. But one of the lyrics in that song is, walking around these walls, I thought by now they'd fall. And I feel like so many gallons, you're filling them up, and you're like, man, I filled up so many gallons, God.
Yeah.
Like, I thought by now you'd step in. By now you'd heal whatever it is I'm struggling with, or help my family, or whatever the case may be. But God's like, he's not late. He is always on time.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I feel like there's so many times in my life where I can think about where I finally stopped trying or striving, or I don't know, just giving up the thing that I want.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost in this act of surrender. And when you stop trying, that God really does show up in a big way. And I like it better, because then he does get the glory for it. And you, like you said, you know, it was only him that did it. And then it gives you peace, because then you don't have to sustain it. God gave it to you. It's on him to sustain it and keep it, and keep whatever it is going.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just think it's such a great principle to understand that so many things that we want in our life, maybe God has a different plan, but it's always going to be better if we can learn to just let go and release it to him, and trust that he does know better than us. And I'm not God, and I'm glad I'm not God.
Right.
I don't want to make those calls in my life. That's too much pressure. But when I can give it up to him and say, and get to a point where I'm like, okay, God, I've asked you, you know the desires of my heart, you know what it is. God, it's your will, do it, and help me want your will.
Right. I think too, it's in those seasons, it can be frustrating. I feel like I've just come out of a season of being like, I feel like we both have just come out of a season of being like, God, like, now I want this thing now. And people always say he saves the best for last.
Yeah.
And that is a biblical principle. And we learn that from the story in John, where it's talking about Jesus turning the water to wine, and how he is saying, like, typically in world's view, you'd give the best first, and then you'd save, like, give the not great stuff.
Yeah, the not great stuff
afterwards. But in the kingdom, God's like, no, I'm going to teach you along the way. I'm going to make you wait. And then you can see that it was me.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give you the best. Like, this is God's best for you. And I love, it's not easy to think that way, but I love that Pastor reminded us that when we're waiting, God is still working.
Yeah.
But also he's teaching us something. Like, he's preparing us, because if we would have gotten what we wanted when we wanted it, we wouldn't have been ready, and we wouldn't have been able to keep it.
Right. Martin, I love even what you're saying. My job is not to understand, but obey. That really hit me hard, because in the times where I feel like I've been waiting for something, or I'm asking God, why aren't you doing this in my life? I felt like I was following your timeline. But really, this understanding that no matter what, you still need to obey. You still need to keep doing whatever the last thing God called you to do, and stay there until things move. I thought that was really, really great. And I love when he said you weren't rejected, you weren't ready yet.
Yeah.
Because I do think so many times we think when God does say no, or things aren't happening as fast as we want, we do feel rejected. We put it on ourselves. We say, God, what's wrong with me? Or for me, it's God, why can't I make this happen? Why am I not strong enough? Like, cue all the self-defeating negative self-talk that you can think of and shaming thoughts that I'm the problem.
Right.
But really, it's God saying he wants to do something in me, and he cares way more about the person that I'm becoming. He cares way more about the timeline of heaven than my timeline. And when things need to come to earth or happen in the earth, that is up to him. He doesn't care really what Kristen Finch wants.
Right. And usually when you get the thing, I would say every time in my life where I've come out of a season like this, once I've gotten the thing, I'm like, oh, this is way better than Ephesians 3:20, way better than anything I could have thought or imagined.
Right.
It's the best of the best.
Yeah, I love that. So it was such a great, encouraging message, and just everything he's saying. It like, it's not when I feel fresh, right?
Yeah.
It was a big thing. It's like when we really get to that point where we can say, God, it's all on you.
Yep.
So
when you come to the end of your rope.
Yeah.
Also, Cagney, I love that you're tuning in, even from the road. Cagney is tuning in. We hope you're driving safe.
Hope you're driving safe, Cagney. But we have an action step for everybody too this week. It was kind of what he talked about at the beginning.
Yes. And Pastor was talking about this interaction that he had, or this opportunity where he got to coach his son up. And he was saying that his son, Elijah, was in a place where I think a lot of us could relate to. You're in a low place. You feel like the enemy loves to tell you, you have nothing, you have no one, there's nothing you can do, and there's no way forward. And Pastor was talking about this list that he makes. And he said, gratitude list, that's like standard practice. But something above and beyond that is this list that you're making of the resources you have, the people who have ever even indicated to you that they might want to help you, or they're there for you, or they support you. And so Pastor was saying, make that list and then release it. You're saying you talk to the people, you connect with them, you do what you can do on, like, out of your strength. Even just pick 2 people to connect with from that list, but then release the need for them to text you back, which I think is huge. I know for me, I have a couple friends that I'm like, I've reached out to them and I don't hear anything, but then like months go by, I see them in person at an event or whatever the case may be, and they're like, it's not that I didn't want to text you back. It's either they were busy or they were like, I actually connected with this person and this person's going to help you instead. And so they're not rejecting you. It's just they might be taking a nap, like Pastor was saying.
Exactly. Because I think so many times we go through these things alone. Like when we're dealing with something, or we almost feel frustrated at God that he's not doing things that we want on the timeline, and we almost want to isolate it. Like we don't want to tell people about it because, again, we feel shameful. We feel like we're the problem. But Pastor really challenged us to think about the people that have said that they want to come alongside you, because I think there are more people that want to come alongside you than you realize sometimes, that people do want to help and be there. They just don't know how, or they don't know what it is. Yeah. And yes, some people are busy. And yes, I'm all about taking a nap. Yeah. But at the same time, I think we can just get in our head so much that we think that there isn't anybody. Yeah. And like those people, they do come back and they say, oh, it had nothing to do with you. Yeah. And you know what? Maybe God blocked it for a reason. Maybe that person didn't text you back because they weren't the one that you needed. Exactly. And somebody else would be the one to support you, because no matter what, God always fills the gaps. We always talk about, when we preach on here, the benefit of community. And I think it goes the same way when we feel frustrated that God isn't doing something. He's not going to let you doesn't want you to walk through that alone. Right. But it is on us sometimes to reach out. Yes. And to tell somebody, hey, this is what I'm really struggling with. Can you pray for me? And that's happened to me before in my life. There was something that I really wanted, wasn't happening when I wanted. And when I shared it with a friend, she really encouraged me and spoke life into me. And I left feeling way more encouraged, and my situation didn't change, but just even talking about it and being able to be so open and honest and vulnerable about something that I was struggling with just made it feel just so much better. Yes. So.
Yes. And I would also say to reach and release with God too. There have been so many times where I don't pray certain prayers because I'm like, he's not going to answer it. Right. Or I've already prayed this and it's going to take too long. But sometimes I think we need to go to God, pray, let him know what's going on in your heart, but then release the need for him to do it right then and right there. Yeah. Know that he is an on-time God. I love the new song that just came out on the album that talks about Pastor he said yesterday too, like, I was in the water, I was drowning, but I didn't go under.
Right.
Like I feel like so many of us, when we're praying, we're like, we need God to answer it now. And we think that it needs to happen now, but God's like, no, I've got this under control. You just need to trust that he'll never let you go under.
Yeah.
I think about the story with Peter walking on the water, and like Jesus, it says that he immediately went out. He reached out for him. He is not going to let you drown.
No.
So
amen. Amen. You made me think about that song we used to listen to. I don't know who sings, but On Time God.
Yes.
Do you remember?
Yes. With Chandler Moore.
It is
such a good song.
Okay.
It was from the Women Evolve conference.
Yes. Okay. That was a great song.
Yes.
So if you need some encouragement that God is always on time, definitely listen to all the Elevation ones, of course.
Yes.
But this was another little bonus just to fill you with faith today too.
Yes.
But we have Love Week coming up this week.
Yes.
So if you haven't signed up to serve yet, make sure you do so. elevationoutreach.org. There's a couple events that we need help with, especially this Saturday.
Yep.
Shout out Youth Unlimited. What are we doing?
We are going to be having a barbecue in the Jane and Finch area, and it's going to be incredible. They're expecting to see over 500 people come out, and we're going to be supplying food, barbecuing for all those people.
It's a lot of food.
It's a lot of food. So make sure you sign up. There's still some spots online. If you go to the Outreach website, just filter for Toronto, and you can see all the different events that have needs.
Yes.
And opportunities to serve.
And if you haven't already, go back, check out our interview with Joel Barnes.
Yes.
Super powerful. We talk about God being a promise keeper, and I feel like this sermon relates so well that God, no matter what, he cannot lie.
Yes.
He keeps his promises. So if God has a promise for you, and you can be confident in that, but that doesn't mean that it's going to happen when you think it's going to happen. It's going to be slower. It's going to take a long time. I think about Joseph and what he said about, but God, all these horrible things happened to him until finally things were made right. It was super slow, but God kept his promise to him. And that's who he is. He cannot change. That is his character through and through. So definitely check out that interview if you haven't already. Send it to a friend even. If you know somebody that might be doubting that God has promises over their life. I don't know. It was a super encouraging interview for both of us.
I watched it back. I've watched it so many times, but this past week I watched it back, and it really did minister to me. The things that Joelle was saying, the conversations that we had. Also, shout out to Martin. When it released, Martin texted me and reminded me of a promise that God had spoke over my life years ago. And he was like, I got to see you sit there and talk about how he's a promise keeper, even when for years I was struggling to believe that for myself. So make sure you go back and watch it. I think that there's something in there for everyone. And we're praying and we're believing that it definitely ministers to you as well.
Yes. Well, have a great week, everybody. And we will see you at Love Week.
Yes, we will see you at Love Week.